While I am not a security guy or even a Linux subject matter expert, I'd like to try and give a 30,000-foot view of the 3 recent Linux local privilege escalation, or LPE, bugs getting attention. They're essentially part of the same disturbing trend, attackers finding reliable ways for an ordinary local user account to become root by corrupting the kernel's page cache or related memory structures. The big 3 are copy fail, dirty frag, and fragnesia. As mentioned, these are all local privilege escalation vulnerabilities. That means the attacker already has some code execution on the machine, they are not root yet, and the exploit allows them to become root. This matters enormously in shared servers, cloud container environments, university systems, CI/CD infrastructure, etc., etc. If malware lands as a normal user, an LPE is often the next step to complete the system takeover. These are all symptoms of a huge kernel attack surface, an increasing subsystem complexity, decades of accumulated interaction, and performance-oriented optimizations colliding with security assumptions. Now, this doesn't mean Linux is suddenly insecure, but it does mean several long-standing assumptions are weakening. Linux security historically relied on privilege separation, the Unix permissions model, strong isolation between user and kernel, and conservative kernel development. The problem is modern Linux is no longer small or simple. The Linux kernel now contains millions of lines of code, networking stacks, virtualization, container support, cryptography APIs, and on and on. That complexity creates more interaction bugs, more memory state edge cases, and more subtle logic flaws. Historically, many kernel exploits were fragile, timing-dependent, and version-specific. Now, researchers are finding deterministic exploit chains, stable primitives, highly portable attacks. That's a major change. Several reports explicitly noted these new exploits avoid race conditions, rarely crash the kernel, and work across distributions with little tuning. That lowers the barrier for attackers significantly. One uncomfortable development is that researchers are increasingly using AI-assisted analysis to discover these bugs faster. So we're entering an era when automated reasoning tools, fuzzers, LLM-assisted auditing, and symbolic analysis can search massive code bases more effectively than humans alone. That means that more vulnerabilities will be found, discovery speed will accelerate, and obscure bug classes will be rediscovered repeatedly. This is probably a permanent condition. I think the long-term impact will be significant in several ways. Linux developers are already discussing subsystem kill switches, stronger isolation, restricting dangerous interfaces, and reducing exposed attack surfaces. You'll likely see more features disabled by default, more LSM usage like SE Linux or AppArmor, tighter container isolation, and increased privilege segmentation. Rust adoption will probably accelerate, not because Rust magically fixes everything. These recent bugs are mostly logic bugs, not simple buffer overflows, but because memory safety still matters, reducing entire classes of bugs helps, and kernel maintainers are increasingly receptive to using Rust. These bugs are especially dangerous in Kubernetes, shared cloud hosts, CI runners, containers. Why? Because containers are not virtual machines, they share the host kernel. So a container breakout combined with an LPE can become a full host compromise. That's why cloud vendors are taking these bugs extremely seriously. For years, part of the Linux community treated Windows as insecure and Linux as secure. Reality is more nuanced now. Linux remains extremely secure when it's patched, minimally exposed, and properly configured. But modern Linux is no longer a tiny Unix-like system. It is effectively a gigantic operating system platform with enormous complexity, and complexity always produces bugs. For desktop Linux users, keep your kernel updated, use distro security updates promptly, avoid random third-party kernel modules, use full disk encryption, use modern browsers, and with sandboxing. For servers, more of the same, patch aggressively, reduce local shell access, isolate workloads, and so on and so on. The important thing might be this. These discoveries are actually evidence that Linux security research is becoming more capable, not that Linux is collapsing. The danger is very real, but visibility is improving too. I guess we'll see what the future holds. Hey, if you got something out of this video, please consider liking and subscribing. And remember, be excellent to each other.